So, look at that. Looks like I got it a little hot, didn't I? Look at that. I wonder if I can get parts for this. Okay guys, on this Oregon CS 1500 electric chainsaw, I'm using it for my 4th season now. And it started making a noise about 1.5 cords into my 3 cords that I'm trying to cut for winter this year. And I typically cut about 2.5 to 3 cords because that's about what we burn here. So I've been using this the past 4 years for bucking, and I'm not using this in the woods to cut trees down. I'm just using it for the logs I bring home, and I'm just bucking them up and then taking them over to the splitter. So this is bucked close to 10 cords, and it started making a noise, and I quit using it just because of the noise it made. Let's see, it's kind of a grinding noise, and let's just see if I can. So there's 2 noises. It's really grindy, and it just started all at once. I was using it and it was cutting fine, and all of a sudden it just started grinding, and I thought, oh, my chain might be loose. And then that noise it makes on shutdown also right before the motor stops is also a little bit worrisome. It sounds like a bearing might be out of alignment or worn out, or I don't remember hearing that before. So let's just take it apart and look at it and see what's going on. Okay. Well, there's the cover. That came off nicely. Now, that's the cooling motor right there. That's the cooling fins right there. This is the thing that blows dirt everywhere when you get this close to the ground. This thing's super powerful. So, look at that. Looks like I got it a little hot, didn't I? Look at that. I wonder if I can get parts for this. So this bearing either seized up and melted this down. So chances are this is ruined on the inside, and I'm not going to be able to put a new bearing in it because the housing is plastic and it's probably destroyed. Look at how it all melted out right there. Pretty crazy. Okay. Well, you know, I'm using it hard. I don't baby this thing at all. I haven't babied it at all for, this is the 4th season I'm on, and I don't baby it. I run it hard, and I push on it hard, and it's always cut and done fine. This self-sharpening chain is very cool. It does the job, keeps the chain sharp, but looks like that definitely is a problem. Let's see if I can get some parts for this. Okay guys, so you know, the plastic was all melted around the back of the bearing. I got a little drift and a little hammer and just kind of lightly tapped it, broke the plastic loose. You can see the plastic had melted around the front side of the bearing. So, you know, my hope was kind of that I could take this apart and I don't know if you can hear that. That's super grindy in there. That is super, that is really toasted. That bearing's really fried. So I was hoping that I could, if I can't get another motor from Oregon, that I can drop a bearing inside there, you know, and just put some JB weld around it or something like that to hold it in place, hopefully get it centered up pretty good, and maybe get some more life out of this. All right, so I ordered a bearing. This is 7mm inner diameter, 7mm wide, and 22mm outer diameter. So, and this one's just toast. I might or might not get this working again, but it'll be fun trying. So we're just going to clean up this. So this is where the brushes run. The brushes on the electric motor actually have a lot of life left in them. So I'm pretty happy with that. So we're just going to clean this up a little bit here so we can get some of this off here. Now, if you ever have an electric motor that's working intermittently and it feels like it's the switch, a lot of times it's just this gets built up with such heavy residue from the brushes running against it, if it's a brush motor obviously, that it just needs to be cleaned off and then it'll start working again. So I've had that happen with a couple electric motors. The electric leaf blower, especially 120 volts, would work intermittently, and I'd bang on it, and it'd finally start running. And once it was running, I had to keep the trigger down because if I let go, it would stop again. and I couldn't, you know, I pulled the trigger and it would work intermittently. So I had to switch apart 3 or 4 times, couldn't get it working. And finally just took it apart and cleaned that, and now it works like a dream again. Also, don't use a heavy grit when you're doing this. This is 400, and this is the scratches you're going to put in it. Make sure you put them along where the brushes are going to run in the same direction so it won't cross-hatch the brushes and wear them out quicker. And I should probably go over this with like 600 when I'm done here, just to make sure to get these 400 grooves out. But it usually doesn't take much to get that off of there. Well, there's a bit of 600. Okay, the bearing came at 7mm inner diameter, 22mm outer diameter, and 7mm wide. So let's see if we can get this installed on here. I'm going to use some quick steel on the back because I thought about JB Weld, but this quick steel has a higher temperature rating than JB Weld or, you know, like 5-minute epoxy. So we're going to use this. And this will set up faster as well. We're going to use a little assembly lube just to get the bearing on. Sounds like it's seated. Looks like it's seated. Good deal. This number, if it matters, is 627Z. Okay, so what I did was just put kind of a bead of quick steel around here on the inside. I actually put 2 beads. So I just kind of rolled it out just like you used to do clay or Play-Doh when you were a kid, and made a nice long little string of it, and then laid it around the inner edge or the outer edge of it. And then I made a second one and laid it sort of on top. And then I pressed it in until what looked like this was all the way to the back here, as far back as it could go. Of course, a bunch of it squished out in the middle there, but I can still turn the armature here. You can see it spins there. Okay. So I think it's dry. Quick steel usually sets up in about 15 or 20 minutes. It's been about 20 minutes. Okay, got it together. And sounds like a normal one now. We'll watch that right there. Made a little black mark there with my Sharpie pen. Okay, and here you can see the oiler gear right here turning. Okay, got it back together. Let's test it out here. Okay, first thing we'll do is make sure it's unplugged, right? Okay. And then I thought, well, maybe I ran it out of oil, bar oil, but I didn't. It still had about, I tipped it sideways and it came pouring out. So I don't think that was the case. Let's just see what this looks like. Let's get this chain and this bar off here. So it is grooved, I don't think that's what's making the noise. Boom. Okay, just a little E-clip. And then that Y is to the inside. I don't know if that matters. There's a little spring right there too. It looks like it has 4 Phillipses here, 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 and here. I'm going to go ahead and try to take this part off first and see if I get lucky with this. I got this kind of long bit. This helps a little bit with the angle. Okay, go ahead and get the handle out of the way here. So these are 2 long screws down here. This is a short screw up on the top of the handle. Okay, this spring wraps up over the top here. Let's see if we can get this off without flying in my face. Okay, that's definitely a machine screw there. Looks like there's another thing that's holding it right there. Let's take that off as well. Okay. Pop, and that just kind of popped down on that. I might not need to take this off, but I want to make sure there's no parts behind it here. No screws behind it there. Okay, the dogs I think I can leave on. So there's two of these. There's one on the top left, kind of 10 o'clock. It stretches that wire, doesn't it? Okay. There's one down here at like 4:30. Okay. Guess it's time to take these off from this side here. There's a bunch of them. Let's split it here and see what happens. Okay. So if we can loosen this tank here. That must be the motor stop, because when you drop the trigger, the motor stops immediately. So that bearing feels really good right there. That's running inside that piece of plastic right there. Oh, how does that come out? Okay, so we've got to take this part off here and this part in order to get this plastic shroud off. I think I can leave this part in place. But we've got a screw there that holds the motor, a screw there, a screw here that I can get to right there, but there's one down here somewhere that I can't get to, so this has all got to come off here. Okay, that just looks like that. There's 4 screws around this. Hopefully there's not a lot of tension on the spring. Now we can let that relax a bit, and I think I can get these others. So let's pull this up here to get these lower screws out. We're going to leave that down to get this out right here. Okay. So there's a washer on top of that spring right there. Now let's get this part off right here. Looks like there's just these 3 screws holding it. Yep. Okay, now that just slid right out. It's got a bearing on the back, and that bearing feels like it's in good shape. These are nice, smooth running bearings right here. These teeth for a plastic gear seem to be doing okay. Okay, so we've got a screw there, screw there, screw there, and a screw there holding the motor in. Half inch. One reverse, correct? Yep. And it is reverse. It is normal threads. Yes, it is. Okay, that second bump got it loose. Okay, I don't see anything else there, washers or whatever else. Okay, there's our motor. Very positive switch. Till the spring pops around. You know, the brushes, you can kind of see the brush inside there. That black carbon thing that runs against this. And they look to be pretty, you know, they look like they're in pretty good shape. There's still plenty of life left in them. But this nut is what I'm after. And this bolt that goes through here. And if you kind of tip this to the side, you might not be able to see in the camera, but there's a Phillips right inside there. I'm going to try to squeeze this in here and hopefully not break anything and see if I can't get that loose. Okay, it definitely loosened right there. Push the nut back. And if I can get that to pop through the nut, which it feels like it has, we can do the other side. Maybe we can pull this apart without having to pull this bearing off of here. All right, let's just go ahead and loosen the brushes. Oh, lots of life left in those. Look at that. That's great. Okay, so I just broke this little piece off right here, this little melted piece, and you can see that inner bearing wallowing around in there. Okay, so got this back together, got it running again. You know, I'd say that after using it for 4 seasons and, you know, about 10 cords of wood, overall I'm very happy with it. Except for the 2 things we'll talk about real quick. And one of those things is this drive sprocket. It seems to be wearing. It's got some couple grooves in it kind of all the way around that the chain's made in it. And I'm not unhappy about that because I understand there are saws that are worse. You probably can't see it well on the camera, but there's a couple grooves there I can feel with my fingernail. There are saws that have these break, you know, kind of in the same dollar range, $100, $120, $150 range, that have these break and you have to replace them. This hasn't broken on me, and so I'm happy with that. I'd like to see it not wear as bad because I have lots of hours on my Husqvarna, and you know, you can't even tell that the chain's even been on it. And so that would be one, not even real complaint, but just something I'm just kind of keeping my eye on. So as far as this bearing failure, that would be the other thing, of course. And that outboard bearing, you know, and I'm using it hard. I'm using it to buck straight, and I'm not really stopping because when I work, I want to get the work done. When it's time to work, I don't want to be waiting on my tool to recover. You know, this isn't like a welder. It doesn't have a duty cycle. You know, use it for 5 minutes and then let it rest for 15 minutes or something. Maybe I missed something in instructions, but if I did, it's my fault. But that's not how I use my tools. So I used it until that outboard bearing failed, and we replaced it, and now it seems to be working again. Hopefully I'll get another season out of it. Maybe 2 seasons, maybe it'll last longer. Maybe I won't use it quite as hard and, you know, give it a little cool down period. Overall, for, you know, occasional use or, you know, small amount of wood cutting, this thing is, I highly recommend this saw. The things I really like about it are how fast the chain stops when you let the power off, or if you hit the chain brake, the chain stops immediately just like it should. That's always been flawless. It's fairly light. It's not loud. It's fairly quiet. You can run this without hearing protection. I usually wear hearing protection because I'm running it a lot. You know, I'm not running it for 2 or 3 or 5 minutes just to cut a few pieces of wood. The other thing I like about it is this self-sharpening chain mechanism. And I was skeptical about this thing, but when I first used it and I was cutting wood and it was kind of getting dull after, you know, several logs, and I'd hit the ground a couple times, you know, hit the dirt, and I just bumped this 2 or 3 times, bzz, 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 like that. Sparks came flying out, of course, and then it like cut like crazy again. I'm like, how does that even make sense? I don't understand how that works. When these cutters go by, they sharpen the top edges of the cutter instead of the inside edges of the cutter, which is typically how you'd sharpen with a file. You'd sharpen the inside of the cutter. This sharpens the outside of the cutter. So I do like that about it. I like it because I don't have to mess with gas or jetting or letting it warm up, or it's quieter. Of course, I'm on a big acreage, so I don't have to worry about my neighbors complaining about me using a chainsaw, but it is quieter, and I do like that about it. And if you have a cord, you just plug it in and use it and then put it away. And of course, it takes all the regular maintenance, like you have to lube the tip of the bar to make sure that sprocket's lubed. You still have to keep it full of oil, and so that the chain stays lubed and that kind of thing. But other than that, you know, it's pretty nice. You don't have a carburetor that's not gonna, you know, that's not gonna run well at certain altitudes, or you just plug it in and you use it. So overall, I'm very happy with the saw. Would I buy it again? Yes. With understanding the limitations of I shouldn't use this for 20 or 30 minutes straight, with it running and running and running for 20 or 30 minutes straight, because that's when it finally failed on me. Okay, and I've done that every year basically. I buck and buck and buck. I have all my logs lined up, so I'm just bucking and bucking and bucking, and it doesn't really get a break. And on this 4th season, you know, that outboard bearing gave up, and yeah, so here we are. All right, we could have drug a couple 100 feet of cord out here to do this, but this generator needs to be running, has been running a couple months. If you haven't seen this DIY workstation cart, it's kind of nice. I made a video on it, check my channel. And let's just get this chainsaw plugged in here and get it going. All right. Turn that off, turn that on, turn the fuel on. We'll give it some choke. Now the bowl's dry because I ran the engine dry when last time I shut it off. So we'll just give it a few priming pulls here. So just a quick note on Oregon as a company. I talked about this briefly before in the early part of the video, but you know, when I called and the lady answered the phone, I wasn't ready. I didn't know what to say because I was waiting for a menu. And they actually answer their phone when you call them, which is very cool. You don't really get that in a lot of companies anymore. The other thing is, I told her, you know, this is out of warranty, but the motor's bad. Can I get a new motor? And she basically said, no, we can't. We don't supply motors for them. And so I said, okay, well, thanks. But she said, where'd it go bad? And I sent her pictures, and she said, our engineers would like to see those. So I sent the pictures, and then she emails me back and she says, hey, by the way, I might be able to help you if you're interested in keeping that one going. She says, let me see what I can do. I'll let you know in a week. And I said, okay. So about a week later, she emailed me and said, give me a call. So I called her and she said, I've got this return here in the office, and the guy that returned it said it wasn't oiling anymore. So, but I think it has a good motor in it. And she said, I'll be willing to send it to you if you want to try it out. I said, mine's way out of warranty. I reminded her, I said, it's 4 years old. And she said, that's okay. I'll just ship it to you. I said, I'll be happy to pay shipping. And she said, well, I really don't have a way to bill you for that. So she says, let me just ship it to you. And if you can get some more life out of yours, then great. So who does that? I don't know. Maybe other companies do that, but that was just a real refreshing, that's a breath of fresh air for modern customer service. And so she sent me this. And so this one, it does run fine. And so when I did take this part off right here, just like I did on this one, you know, you could see the little oiler right here. This gear was turning, but this gear right here was not running the pump. And so on this one, it just wasn't working. And so something went wrong there. The other thing is that's interesting about this is look at the deep grooves in this one. Look how severely grooved that thing is. And so I don't know if that's from running the chain too tight or from just lots of hours of use, one or the other for sure. So I won't be able to reuse that, but I can get these online, I think. In any event, I'm just going to run this motor until it grenades. And when it grenades, then I'll take it out and put this motor in. Hopefully I'll get, a few more seasons out of this combination. All right, well, hopefully this video helps you guys. Obviously, it'll tell you what not to do maybe. Maybe rebuilding this or putting a new bearing in the end here probably isn't the best idea, especially if this plastic keeps continuing to deteriorate. Can you get a new motor for this? I've looked online, I haven't been able to find them. Hopefully this video helped you some, at least in how your saw works. If it stops oiling, there's some things you can check. Maybe these screws came loose and this thing isn't engaging here anymore, right here. Maybe those screws right there came loose. As far as the switches go, they're really easy to replace if one of the switches goes bad or something gets out of misalignment. There's how the chain sharpener works. We talked about the oiling. You've seen the inside of it from the early parts of the video, so kind of give you an idea of how things work inside, and maybe something breaks inside of yours or comes apart or comes loose and you can just take it apart and fix it. Okay, again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.